But what we would do on Windsor is that we would sell Windsor to OEM potential customers as a city that is a supply yard. You can buy your tools, you can buy your machines, you can buy your molds, and you can essentially source every part of a vehicle from this town. And you can go across the river to the center of the automotive universe, or you're 1 day's travel from the biggest market in the world. Those are good arguments to make in healthier times, you know, when everybody's making investments. The trends on investment, of course, are southward. Some of that is perception, some of that is momentum. So we find APMA, half of my work is commercial networking, the other half is advocacy. A lot of the advocacy is, okay, so what do we make in Windsor? What do we make in Oshawa? What do we make in Woodstock and Ingersoll and Brampton? And how does that product line up against the CAFE standard? And what is the product mix that those companies are making? And where have they invested in their smaller vehicles? And where are they invested in their larger vehicles? And we try to educate the people who would be on the other side of that negotiating table on the language of that automaker. We talk Windsor versus Chattanooga. That's not what they talk. They talk about, does a Touareg contribute to the 54.5 miles per gallon, or does the Jetta? And how many Touaregs do I have to sell, or how many Jettas do I have to sell the target amount of Touaregs that I want to sell? And what are the pro formas on those plants? And if it doesn't work, you're going to find, and I think you're probably already seeing, automakers making specific product decisions that have little to do with where they're made, but it's how many of those can I sell in that new regime. And it's a really difficult language to understand if you've been speaking governmentese for 30 years as opposed to manufacturing. Organizations like ours are supposed to be there, I think, to be the interpreter. It's a challenge, but I think you'll see at our conference some of that language is there. And our interventions are never about, our interventions on TPP was never, and I think I've been on the record and said, don't cut us a check. Suppliers don't need a check. Make sure you do what you need to do to keep the value proposition of assembly in Canada, and we'll work out the rest. Can't always fix this stuff with money, but you can't be shy about spending money. But you really, really have to know what that automaker is making. Like, the most important part of that, of the Pacifica reinvestment here, is how does the Pacifica, launched in for a 2017 model, look in 2025, and where does it contribute to that 54.5? I think you're going to see a lot of variance on that product, and they've got an electric Pacifica. The treatment on those electric vehicles are great against the average, but you got to sell them. So if you sell one, it's nice. If you sell 50,000, it's great.